looks like I can record, so I'll just be on the telephone and we'll go from there. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Rick.
Hi, Rick.
Hi.
Sylvester,
It's been a long day, as Jim Cameron well knows. So
I haven't talked to you in a few hours now.
This is true. This is very true. I just restarted my computer, so I need to open up a couple of things here and leaving the database. So let's see. Do we know everybody who's on the call?
everybody except for 2 phone callers. I know Sylvester's on one of them. If he would speak up one more time.
Okay.
This is Richard from New York.
Richard
Okay.
Phoebe?
No. Staten Island, Richard.
Staten Island.
I'm full. All right.
Okay.
And I don't
When I take
think
a break, I'll clean up.
I don't think I've ever gotten a.
Oh, I gotta go get my pills too. I forgot.
Can everybody hear me?
Hello.
We seem to be having some real difficulty.
Okay.
Everybody,
Yes,
please
sir.
mute if you're not talking.
Right.
You tutored her, I think, back in the spring.
I do. I had one lesson with her. I remember. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Frida, you've got news.
Get more consistent. So she wants to start tutoring with you.
Okay.
Or,
Oh, Frida, you've got to mute.
she'll take the SAT on the 7th of
Okay.
October.
We take care of it that way. We do this from the control desk here.
I muted him already.
He's clearly not hearing you. Okay. So let's. Sorry. Hopefully everybody can hear me now. Okay. Because I'm on my speakerphone, or I'm on my cell phone using the speaker because I can't be holding the phone right the way through this. So let me just see who we've got here. So I'm going to write down some names. So we've got Jake, we've got Jim Harrington, we've got Joel Blanchette. We have Len Sierra, Paul Frieda. We have, let's see, Jake, I've got that. We've got Richard and Betty. We have Bill Franklin. Above water or below water, Bill Franklin?
Well above water.
Well above water, good. We like to hear well above. Oh my goodness, we have Cameron on the phone. Hello, Cameron.
Hello there, guys.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank you.
What a pleasure to hear your voice.
Yes, we've had plenty of chats by text.
Yeah. So hang on, and we'll probably come to you pretty early. We have Eric. Great. I'm very pleased that Eric's on the line. I'm looking for an update. I just sent you an email, Eric. You probably saw it. We've got, Howard Hertz. I was talking about you last week, Howard. I was with please can you mute if you're not talking, because otherwise we're getting feedback. I was with Alan Idell last week, so that's why you came to mind.
Okay, so Okay, so I'll look at that.
Okay. So, let me just see. Okay, so I think there are a couple of people on the telephone. Sylvester, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Okay, say hello again for me.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, number 5, Jake. And we have one other person who's on the line. Who might that be?
Jim Cameron.
Bill Jim Cameron. Oh, and Jim Cameron and Bill Whittemore. Bill Whittemore, we haven't heard from you for a while.
I know. It's nice to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, too. Okay, so I'm going to read through who I've got listed, and then if I've missed anybody, please let me know. I've got Jake Hannum, Jim Harrington, Joel Blanchette, Len Sierra, Paul Frieda, Richard and Betty, Bill Franklin, Cameron Upton, Dennis Correa, Eric Bookbinder, Howard Hertz, Jim Cameron, and Phil Whitmore. Is there anybody that I've missed? Okay. Well, we're off and running. So,
I'm sorry, Rick. This is Jay Kruckman. I was muted there. So.
Oh, did I not? I'm sorry, Jay. Did I not add you? I didn't add you. I beg your pardon.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, I saw your name. I just didn't write it down. I'm just a little behind the 8 ball today because of my GTM being off. Okay. All right. So, okay, Jake sent a message. I got you. Okay. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat window too. So, okay. So, just a real quick word, and then we'll move on because a lot of you guys were not on the call last Tuesday, but PCRI was really successful. If we have time, we can talk a little bit about PCRI towards the end of the call, depending on how many people need to speak. One of the best things about it was just getting to meet people, see people I haven't seen for a long time, and meet some people for the first time, and that's always a really great highlight when we're there. We now have a video of the contraction. I haven't actually posted it yet because we've just got to change the location. It's on John Teisberg's YouTube, but we need to move it onto our YouTube before I start widely distributing. But you'll all have a good laugh when you see John demonstrating his man-junk contraption. It was certainly worthwhile. I think that our reception was really successful. We had a good 40 people. The food was really good, and I think everybody enjoyed themselves. And one other really great thing that happened last week is that I received a call from Dominic's niece, and they made a pretty significant contribution, which was really nice and totally unexpected. They asked me if I had any suggestions, so I said, well, yes, I did. I certainly suggested us, and I also suggested two other charities that Dom supported. One was Us Too, because he was he did a lot of peer-to-peer navigation for them, and I suggested give one for that, and they were nice enough to give the whole donation to us. So that was really it made us all feel really good. So there's a few people that I know had some significant updates today, but there's only one person who is new to the call, and but not new to me. And that's Cam Upton, who's calling in from Australia. I'm not even sure I know where in Australia, but Cam will tell us momentarily. And Jim Marshall and I have been working with Cam now for probably about 6 to 8 weeks. And Cam came into us a while back trying to figure out the best course of action for a very young man diagnosed with metastatic disease. So Cam, why don't you take the floor if you're comfortable doing so? Tell the guys about where you're at, and your age, your diagnosis, where you're being treated, some of your thought processes to date, and maybe you can ask them a little bit about your concerns over some of your treatment choices.
Okay, do I have the floor?
You do.
Right, well, I'm in a lovely spot in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, called Brunswick East, and just moved into a nice new house that we built, and 2017 was supposed to be our best year ever. And then I had a biopsy in middle of Jan and was told that it was Gleason 9 and spread outside of the prostate, and rushed me in for a 6.5-hour radical prostatectomy and took 21 nodes out. But unfortunately, it wasn't successful in stopping it spreading. So I spent probably the first 6 months of the year after that just trying to deal with it. I'm only 43 years old, so I've got a young family with 3 boys, aged 9, 5 and 3. So yeah, it's been a pretty tough run. At the moment, I've been on Zoladex for the last 4 months. Apparently my testosterone level's not low enough though. I've got a small MET that can be seen on a PSMA PET on the rib, and they're worried about 2 spots on the liver. But I'm having an MRI next Monday to confirm the liver. And I've recently decided, with a bit of help from Rick and Jim, to force a dose of 6 rounds of docetaxel. So earlier than what my original medical oncologist wanted, but from all the literature I've been reading and the people like yourselves that I've been talking to, it sounds like I better hit this thing pretty hard if I want to be around for a few more years. And that's basically where I'm at. What
was it that your original medical oncologist was not Dr. Tran, if I'm not mistaken? What was it they wanted you to do?
Well, she's a more conservative oncologist, and I think from what I now know, Australia is very much conservative in their approach, and they wait for everything to be proven over and over again. So she looked at the charted results, and she looked at my it was a low volume spread, and she thought, well, he's not really in that realm. But I wasn't comfortable with that. And also Ben Tran wasn't necessarily comfortable about that. And my original urologist, who are all around the same age as me, when I eventually went back to them after learning a bit more myself, I said, forget the medical stuff. You know what I've got. If it was you, what would you do? And both of them said we'd have 6 rounds of docetaxel. So that was ultimately my final decision. I'm not looking forward to it, obviously. Next Wednesday I get the first round. But yeah, I think it's better to hit it hard than to just wait for it to become resistant.
And when you do get to talk to Dr. Tran, it might be worthwhile having a discussion as to whether carboplatin is in the picture to add to the docetaxel, only because you don't make a lot of PSA, number one, and number two, you've got mets to your liver, which is sort of an indication so early on that the disease isn't perhaps a normal type of prostate cancer. And it might be something that's just worth discussing with Dr. Tran. And as I mentioned to you, if he's not familiar with that literature, we can at least send a couple of things to him to decide whether he thinks you fit into that picture or not. At the same time, there are at least 2 men on this call who have morph disease, and one of them for sure is waiting for carboplatin, and the other one, I think the jury's still out. We'll find out within the next couple of days whether they're going to add carboplatin. But you're also getting docetaxel or chemotherapy a lot earlier than they did in their course of treatment, and they're also significantly older than you are. So, what questions do you have for the guys? Maybe if you have any questions about chemotherapy, for example, we've got some experience on the line of chemotherapy. We've got experience on the line of people that are doing second-line anti-androgens. We got a lot of experience on the line. So if you've got questions, fire away.
No, I think at this stage, I just wanted to actually make a call to you guys and get involved. I've actually got to leave in a couple of minutes because I'm still trying to juggle everything in the world, like running a business and the same. Ken Anderson has been absolutely fantastic that you gave me. He's just been great. He's just finished his round of docetaxel. He's been really helpful in just preparing me for it. And I've also done a lot of research now. I'm not as worried about it as what I was. I was terrified. Now I'm just bracing for impact, and from what I've heard is everyone cops it differently. I might make through 5 rounds relatively unscathed, but I don't really have a choice. I will raise what you've suggested with Ben, because I hadn't heard anything about it, and as I said, they seem to be so far behind in Australia, from my perspective anyway. I'm happy to raise anything, but certainly moving forward, will have lots of questions, especially considering I'm still coming to terms with the disease, and I wasn't expecting to think about this for 20 years. So I don't really have many people, my age or anywhere near my age to talk about it, and it's very different stages of life. And so I feel like I've got 100 plates up in the air and only 2 hands to hold them.
Well, if you, I don't know how much time you have right now, but if the guys would like to talk to you, I'm happy to throw it open. If you don't have time and you got a bolt, then we understand that.
I wouldn't mind for the first session wrapping up, mainly because I've got a 3-year-old, to be honest, sitting on the toilet, and he needs something wiped. So I may as well be brutally open in this forum. But I'll certainly start getting more involved in the calls. But you can probably hear him in the background asking me to come and help him. So hopefully moving forward, I can be more. I can stay for longer on the call.
If you want to just put us on mute and just have to listen in the background, you're more than welcome. You're always welcome. And any way that we can help you from this side of the puddle, we are happy to do that, Ken.
And I truly appreciate that, Rick, because you've actually, I probably would still be sitting with my same oncologist at this point, waiting until October 20 to decide whether we're going to talk about chemotherapy. So, you've helped me bring the decision forward, and hopefully that does buy me a little bit more time for someone to come up with something that's more of a cure rather than a Band-Aid.
Okay. All right. Well, listen.
All right, guys.
You're always, absolutely. Great to hear your voice. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Sorry. I would have clearly wanted to throw that open for some of you to talk to him, but when you got a 3-year-old sitting on the loo, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Oh yeah, been there and done.
Okay, so let's see. Did anyone else come in during that?
Dave Sibley.
Oh, Dave Sibley. Hello. How are you?
I'm a little late. Apologize.
That's okay. We've written you down, and we're just about to do the round robin because there was just one new man, and he couldn't hang on the call. So let me start at the top. Well, I don't know. I'm sorry this isn't in order. I'm a little discombobulated, so I'll just go down the list as I have it and try and get to everybody. We have enough time. Jay Kruckman, let's start with you. Do you have anything you'd like to chat with us about today?
Nope, just eavesdropping. Thank you.
Good. Jake, how about yourself?
No, Rick.
No, was that a no I heard?
That's a no, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
that was a no. Jim Harrington, you. Hello.
Hi, Rick. No, I'm just doing fine with those attacks, so really I don't have any updates.
Okay, well, if we have extra time and talk about PCRI, we'll come back to you for your impression.
Sure, always
okay?
happy to do that. Sure.
Okay. Joe Blanchette, anything for you today? Joe, anything for you today? Okay, we'll come back to Joe. Len, anything for you?
No, thanks, Rick.
Are you speaking to us from your new abode, Len?
Yes, I am.
All right.
And I'm very, very happy here, very relieved that it's all over finally.
Good. Paul Frieder, anything for you?
No, nothing for me tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Richard and Betty, anything for either of you two?
Yeah, I have a few things.
Okay.
Should I do it? Go ahead.
No, just hold on. I'm going to go through everybody, and then we'll come back around. And I'm just checking to see how much time I have for each person right now, if that's okay. Bill Franklin, how about you?
Well, yeah, since everybody else seems to be declining, I might ask a question. So.
Not only can you ask a question, you can share with us how you survived Irma.
Yeah. Actually, it wasn't. It was all right. Yeah, I'll let you know.
Thank you. Dennis Correa, anything for you?
Just listening in today, Rick.
Okay. You're a quiet bunch. I think everybody wants to hear about Eric. Everybody wants to hear about PCRI. Eric Bookbinder, I know you've got something to tell us. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Double muted. Yes, I do have some things to say.
You do. Okay, all right. Howard Hurst, how about yourself? Anything you'd like to share with us?
Nothing other than maybe wanting to hear if Alan Edel had any further insights about my situation.
Oh, I'm embarrassed to say that we didn't get to talk about your situation in great detail, I'm afraid. We were meeting for the first time.
I don't have anything then, thank you.
Okay. Jim Cameron, I know you have something to say.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Bill Whittemore, you want to give us an update since we haven't heard from you for a while?
Yes, thanks, Rick.
Sure. And Dave Sidley, do you have something you'd like to talk to us about tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, have I missed anybody on the round robin?
Sylvester. You missed Sylvester.
No, I don't have anything. Thank you anyway. I don't have anything this evening.
Thank you, Sylvester. Sorry about that. Thank you, and thanks, Jake, for reminding me. Okay, let's start with Richard. Joe Blanchette, are you back on the line with us?
Yes, sorry, I had to take a phone call in background, so I missed my turn. And
No
I don't
problem.
have anything to offer except to tell you I viewed your briefing today at PCRI and I enjoyed it. It was very helpful, so thank you very much for putting that on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Wait, if you enjoyed that, wait till we send out the link for Professor John Teisberg's demonstration of the man jump contraption. That will really be fun. So you weren't in Chicago for us too last year, were you? Last summer?
No, I was not. I was at PCRI 2 years ago, but I did not attend last year or this year.
Okay, well, no, because John demonstrated the machine live at the US2 Chicago conference last year, so I just wondered if you might have seen it live before, but you'll have fun. Okay, Richard, over to you. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I just had my 12th round of doxycycline and carboplatin. And as far as the cancer goes, my scans have shown that the cancer is controlled. It's not, it hasn't receded, but it seems to be under control. It's not spreading anymore or doing anything that's, it's not growing, at least, in both my liver and my lungs and my bones. I've also just started Xtandi shots, which, according to Dr. Morris, will control some of the or improves the cancer, cancer in the bones. The only problem I'm having is when they did the scans, they found something that seems like an infection in my lungs. And they gave me a while back, they gave me a antibiotic, which didn't do anything. Then they did a lung biopsy, which didn't show them anything. And now they've decided it's an infection, so they're trying another antibiotic. Everything seems like it's going along well. I don't know exactly, except for that whatever it is in my lungs. As far as the cancer goes, but you know, I feel a little bit more tired now that I took the Xtandi, I think. And also, I'm finding I'm very thirsty. I don't know what that, if the Xtandi has anything to do with thirst, but it seems like I'm very thirsty after that shot. Like I said, I've also been using, I know you were talking before about the doxycycline. I've been using the ice on my hands and feet, and that seems to have done away with any problems with the neuropathy or even some of the other issues. So the ice has been very, very successful for me. And that's pretty much where I stand right now.
Well, I mean, that's really good news about your hands and your feet. I mean, we've known some guys that have tried. Has anyone else? I know some of you have had neuropathy. Have any of you tried icing whilst you're getting the docetaxel? Well, it is a good tip, and you know, some of the docs look at it sort of a little askew, but you know, there is good reason to think that by icing, you reduce the ability of the chemotherapy to agent to get to some of your cells. And so there are some people that use these ice caps to stop their hair falling out. People put their fingers and their toes in ice to stop their nails falling off. And then also it can, as Richard mentioned, it can reduce neuropathy too. So it's certainly something that's worth bearing in mind. And if you have a doc who is a little, shall we say, skeptical, we can probably help you find some literature that supports doing it, and there's certainly anecdotal evidence, as you heard tonight. As far as the thirst is concerned, I've not heard that before, Richard. I mean, I don't know. I had Zometa. I never did Xtandi. Is there anybody that's done Xtandi who's on the call and who has had issues with thirst?
Rick, this is Jim. It's kind of similar, although of course I don't take the carboplatin, but I'm on docetaxel, and I do take Xtandi. I take it every month and a half, and I've been getting these shots for a long time. I don't experience any thirst that I can point to from Xtandi. Actually, it doesn't do anything to me. Sometimes you can have problems with your teeth. I would always tell my dentist if you're taking these kinds of drugs, but other than that, so what? So I actually really have never had any problem. But I want to say one thing to Richard, and that is, you said you talked about an infectious after your docetaxel. Are they giving you neulasta?
No, I don't take neulasta.
Okay, well, I do. And the neulasta is, I just wanted to jump in, Rick, because what it does is it raises your white blood count and is supposed to prevent infections, or at least make it hard to get an infection. I haven't had any, but it's the most unusual device. They just stick this on your stomach, and it automatically sticks you. And then 27 hours later, the medicine is injected in you, and it sure works for me because I've had no problems with any kind of infections or anything like that, at least as related to white blood count, because the docetaxel really can hit your blood cells. My red blood count, everything, my hemoglobin is always compromised to some extent, it seems. But I also get transfusions, but we're not talking about that right now. But I'm an expert on transfusions to fight anemia. But I mean, you might ask about neulasta. I don't know what these little pumps, that's what I call them anyway, this little blinking thing that's on your stomach costs. I can only imagine it's expensive as hell. But I'm given this after every infusion of docetaxel. Something to think about.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's appropriate for men who are have issues with their blood counts, as you do, Jim. At the same time, you are right. It may also be appropriate if you're suffering from an infection, and perhaps it is worth raising it with Morris next time you see him.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly know about it. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Right now they're just giving me the antibiotic.
Yeah, I mean, neulasta is I mean, I can't tell you much about it. I don't know if anybody else on the call has had neulasta, but it's simple, and as I say, forgot who makes this stuff, but it's supposed to really work and keep away infections and so forth. So it's just automatically given to me. I didn't know anything about it, and every time I've had the infusion, right after it's over, they put this little device on my stomach. Something to think about. I don't. Maybe your insurance doesn't pay for it. Heaven only knows what this little thing costs.
Morris gave me it when I was going to my son's wedding. Because he said that it would be
more people,
meeting too many people, and
that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's a good point.
He also, it sounds like he is a little hesitant because he gives you at the same time OxyContin and painkillers too.
Oh, I see. Yeah. oxycodone. I have plenty of it,
but and I don't have the placebo, which is
Sorry, guys.
I'm totally sure what this is. But that's where I stand.
Okay. I apologize.
I will ask Dr. Morris about the neulasta.
Right.
yeah, it might be worth asking. But you're quite right. When you're in groups, and you should wash your hands at this is you want to avoid infection. That's right. That's what it's all about.
Oh,
yeah.
After that, half the time I'm washing my hands all the time. I wash my fruits and vegetables. I don't eat anything. I've been trying to be very, very good at that, not get the infection. And like Morris said, he said if it reaches, if my temperature reaches 100 and I had that problem reaching the temperature. So they're trying. They really didn't. They don't really know if I have an infection in my lungs. They just trying to figure out what it is.
Mm.
An inflammation. It's not. My wife Betty just said it's an inflammation, not necessarily an infection.
Okay. Well,
I don't know if neulasta would work in that case.
Anybody else like to say anything to Richard before we move on? Okay. I'm back. I apologize for that horrible screeching during. I think I figured out why I couldn't hear you before. I'm still gonna have to call GTM afterwards, but at least I'm back on. I'm off the telephone and I'm speaking to you directly at this point, which is better. So,
Rick, before you go on, we have a couple of new. Ken Anderson has joined us.
All right.
And I'm not sure if you checked in with Jim Cameron or not. If you asked him.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Ken, you missed Cam Upton. He said some very nice things about you, and thank you so much for supporting him. He couldn't stay on the phone because he's taking care of his 3-year-old right now. But he did come on and he did stay for a while.
I've been trying to give him info on chemo because I know he starts 28th, I think.
Yep. Yeah. Whatever you've been doing, it's much, much appreciated. He made that point, and thank you so much for mentoring him. This is a comment for everybody that sometimes you have to think back to when you were first diagnosed, and for some of you guys, that's quite a long time ago, and I know it's not easy. But when you have a mentor who's been through something very similar to what you're going to go through, available to talk to, it does make a huge, huge difference. And it's one of the reasons why one of the things that we like to do at Answer Cancer, as well as these groups, is to connect people to each other who have similar experiences. And you can hear from Cam Upton at the beginning of this conversation what it means to him. And Ken, I really would urge you to listen. I'll try and post this tonight, and I'd urge you to listen to the first 10 minutes because I think you'll find that it's heartwarming for you personally. So thank you. And there's something else we want to share with you, but we'll get to it when we get to Jim Cameron. But do you have anything you'd like to talk to us about today?
No, just that I would agree that the neulasta, it's something that I took after every round of chemo, and when it came to like the 4th, 5th, and 6th round, I found the little boost of white blood cells to be pretty substantial as far as treatment's concerned. And I don't know if Cam can do that in Australia or not, but definitely made a difference in the amount of time it took to recover from the chemo. I don't know what it actually does, but I know it is quite expensive. I think my insurance company, my mom billed $52, $58 for it, and my insurance company paid $2,700 of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, that little device Jim, really is a fancy little device, the way it blinks and beeps and so forth, and it always seemed to me to be expensive, but my blood and counts have been better with this, and I haven't had any problems, so yeah, I'm just thankful that the insurance will pay for this little gadget. Pretty clever little thing, actually.
Ken, if we've got time, we may come back to you, because I, for one, would like to know how you're working out this issue with the focused salvage radiation, the debulking of the gland that you and I have been talking about.
You guys can move along where you were. I know I come in late, so go ahead and finish up. And if you have time, fine. If not, we'll chat, because I don't have my meeting with that guy until this Thursday.
Okay.
I mean, I talked to him on the phone. Dr. Lucas gave me a call, and we kind of went through the rundown of why he says blah blah blah, and I'll tell you all about it. But it only takes time.
We'll come around to you. We may well have time today. Bill Franklin. First of all, a quick rundown on how the Franklins survived Irma, and then talk to us about whatever's on your mind.
Yeah, so we evacuated for Irma. We didn't go very far, but we evacuated because if anybody watched the news at all, you saw that it was a continually changing track, and we just weren't sure. So better safe than sorry. We went. We're in a flood zone. We're in the what we call Zone A here in Florida, where my property is about 9 feet above sea level, and we live in a canal community. So if there had been a big storm surge, our house probably would have sustained water damage. So we went ahead and left, but we only went 30 miles north to a friend's house, a little horse farm out in the country, we say, but it's not really too far in the country. Yeah, he had generator set up for his whole property, and he's on a well, so we knew everything would be good. And my wife and I were talking about today, and we said it was almost like a little 2-day vacation. Just beside the worrying about what's going to be the situation at our house when we go home. It was kind of pleasant up there, and we did weather the storm. The storm came through there too. We clocked some pretty significant. We were getting 70-mile-an-hour winds there, so. But yeah, we did well. We got home. The property was fine. A lot of trees down and things like that throughout the neighborhood. Power was spotty for a week, and it's been solid since this weekend. So
good.
We're doing good.
Well, we hope that which is the next one? Martha Maria.
No, Hurricane Maria.
Maria. We hope Maria is just as forgiving for you.
Yeah, we do too, definitely.
So tell us what's
yeah. Well, my question is one I've asked before, and I don't know with the current group how much of an answer I'll get. But so I came off ADT, basically had my last shot in April, so it was a 4-month shot. So about the end of July, early August, the effects of the drug wear off, or will start wearing off. So, and I've been looking all over, all the different sites about, and the people discuss it as like, how long does it take to recover? But nobody has any kind of definitive answer, and no one's ever done. I was thinking like our group with our website, no one's ever done like an article or asked a doctor to comment on it. Like we have these discussions with doctors, and we put up there. So it's like they're happy to treat you, but it's an important it's important for those of us that go off it. We want to know when we're going to recover, get back that. See, my mind just went blank because of the ADT. What am I looking for? Quality of life issues, right? You can't find that for coming off of ADT. You can find it for going on ADT, but you can't find it for going off ADT. I've never found an article by, well, I've seen some interviews and stuff, but like an article specifically by a doctor that says, here's what all the studies say. So I would ask the group if anybody's been there, been through it, came off it, even if it was intermittent, like a holiday or something. I'm just wondering when I'm going to feel better. I mean, I'm feeling better now, but I still have all the symptoms of ADT.
So I
This is
think,
Jake.
Jake, can I just say one thing and then I'll come straight to you? I think that there are a lot of articles, and I can share my screen, I guess. Let me see if I can just share my screen here. Share your screen. Here we go. Start sharing my screen. Just let me know if you can see this. Okay. Can you see anything on the? Do you see anything or not?
No, I don't see your screen.
You don't. Okay, so let's try this. Do you see anything now? No.
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, yeah, it popped up.
It did. And can you see
PubMed page up there?
I'm on PubMed. Okay. So what I'm going to do, and I apologize to those of you who are on the phone, but this is one of the reasons why it is quite good to come in on GoToMeeting, because you'll see this. I'm going to put up here prostate cancer, and then I'm going to put return of testosterone. I'm going to put return of testosterone after ADT. And let's just see if we've got anything there. Because I seem to recall that when I researched this, and this is going back to 2010 or 2011, there were a lot of articles. No, well, that didn't bring anything up. So let's just try this. Return of testosterone after ADT. See if that gives anything. And there were a lot of articles on prostate cancer after that. Well, that's no. Yeah, no, that's not going to go. So let's put just put testosterone after ADT. It may be better to do this in an advanced search. Okay, so let's put prostate cancer.
Rick, I just in the standard Google search put life after androgen deprivation therapy, and a bunch of things came up.
Okay, so I do know that there are articles. I'll look for them, and I'll try and find them for you. But I think one of the problems is that as your testosterone comes back, each man is different, not only in the speed at which it comes back, but how the return of that testosterone affects him. So, Peter Kafka, who's not on the call today, after his last bout with intermittent, when he went off, his testosterone came back within about 3 or 4 months, which is really pretty quick. And he was feeling great within about 5 or 6 months. How long is it since you were last since you had your last shot?
Yeah, I had my last shot at the 4th of April. So I mean, technically it's been 2 months if you count the time frame of when it wore off. And I realize I may be impatient, but
what I'd encourage you to do is just search on PubMed, because there are a lot of articles that have been written. I will make a note to look for you afterwards, and I'll see if I've got anything in my lists for you. And then also, like Eric said, there is some stuff, life after hormone therapy, if you like, on the web. I'm sure that Wassersug has a chapter on that. I can't put my hands on the Wassersug book right now. It's still packed away. But I'm sure Wasserzoog has something to say about it, and others. What about people on the call? Who on the call has got? I mean, Len, for example. Len, you've been on and off hormone therapy. I don't know who else has been on and off hormone therapy on the call. Let me throw it open.
Yeah, Rick, it's Len. So this is Bill asking the question. Bill Franklin.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bill, it depends. From my understanding, it depends on how old you are, how long you were on ADT before you went on drug holiday.
Right.
So there are several factors that could influence how fast your recovery is, or if you even have a recovery. I know a guy in the local support group here in Connecticut. He's been off therapy for a year, and his testosterone has never recovered. That was also true for Lupron Jim. I don't know if I know Rick knows him.
Yeah.
And you guys may know him. His testosterone never recovered, even after a year or longer. In my case, I guess I'm one of the luckier ones. The first time I went on drug holiday, it came back to normal levels in 3 months, and by 6 months it was even above normal. And this second time around, pretty much the same picture. 3 months after the effects of the last dose wore off, I was back to like over 400, and then at the 6 month point, I was over 600. So everybody's different.
Right. Yeah, I understand that. And also, I'd read that, how low it goes while you're on it was also a contributing factor, and the drug that you're on. I mean, some people, they use different drugs. So, how old are you, Lynn?
I am 68, and
okay.
I have to admit that the first time I was on drug holiday, I felt stronger than I did the second time around, despite the fact that the testosterone levels came to the same recovery state.
Right.
I felt perfectly normal the first time around. This second time, I would say my energy level certainly better than when I was on ADT, but not as high as my first drug holiday. So, I am 2 years older than the last time I was on drug holiday.
Right. Okay. I'm 54, and I was on it for 22 months, and.
Yeah, well, you've got to give it more time. 2 months is not enough.
Yeah, I understand that, and
Yeah.
it did hit me pretty hard. My testosterone went all the way down to 13.
Yeah, I was below 4, so you'll come back.
Wow. Yeah. All right, that's encouraging.
In my case, my testosterone didn't start to show until at least, let's see, I got my last shot in February, I think it was, and it was probably August before I showed any recovery I showed no recovery in May, which was 3 months after my last shot. And not surprising because it was 90 days. And then in the August, I think I started to show some sort of a recovery, and by November it was significant.
All right.
Anybody else? Anyone else? Go ahead.
Like I said, there's a level of impatience there. So.
Jake, you wanted to say something.
No, basically, I was just going to say what you and Len had said. It depends on your age. That is a factor. The formulation you were using beforehand, whether it was a 1 month, 2 month, or 4 month version, all those are factors. So, but you basically took my thunder. Thanks a lot.
I just found, I haven't read it, but there's an article I just found here that says hormonal response recovery after long-term androgen deprivation therapy in patients with prostate cancer. So I will send that to you afterwards.
Or you could just put a link in the chat box, or that's
okay.
That's quite the title. That's quite the title you just spit out there.
Yeah, I got to read it afterwards. Copy. I'm just putting it in the chat box, and I'm sending it to everyone now. And if anybody on the phone wants that, you'll just send me an email, and I'll send it to you. Okay. All right. So, am I still sharing my screen?
You are, yeah. We're watching everything you do.
Oh my goodness. Well, here's for those of you that want to see it, there's the article. I'll stop sharing my screen later, and some of you can read it whilst I continue. So we'll move along, and let's talk to Eric. I think yeah. Let's talk to Eric. Eric, tell us how you're doing, and did you start chemo?
Want me to go through the history or just current? What's happening? I started chemo last Wednesday at carboplatin.
Right.
Dr. Golazol, I was so sick on docetaxel that she didn't want to start me on cabazitaxel right away.
Oh, right.
So I got a port installed last Tuesday, and then Wednesday I got my first chemo, and I've had 0 side effects from it, nothing at all. They put me on heavy steroids.
We can see that.
Yeah, nice puffy face, huh?
Yeah, I was gonna.
So, yeah, what happened was they put me on Xofigo and Zytiga, and then 6 weeks later, I spent 24 hours in the emergency room because my arms are going numb, and they found that all the tumors are growing.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided that the Xofigo and the Zytiga weren't doing anything, and started me on carboplatin right away, and presumably will add cabazitaxel if I can tolerate it. The tumors have completely surrounded the spinal cord.
Right.
So UCSF, the Berkeley radiation oncologist didn't want to radiate because of the closeness to the spine, but the people in Berkeley say they can do it. They have finer equipment. So I had a long planned vacation. It all encouraged me to go. So I'm going to be gone from the 22nd to the 28th, and then I'll start the radiation when I get back. Kind of worries me. I mean, I feel right now everything is so critical that I want to do everything right away, but they said that it was okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, that's the story. That's where I am right now. If I don't take the morphine, I'm in a lot of pain. Morphine does make the pain go away. I don't feel it at all as long as I maintain my dosage of morphine. It doesn't make me loopy. It doesn't make me high. It just makes the pain go away. And occasionally I have some breakthrough pain. I'll take something else, oxy or naproxen. They also gave me baclofen because part of the way the pain manifests itself is the spasms in my back. And so the baclofen actually does help. I'm on 22 drugs now, so it's hard to keep track of it all.
Right.
You have to take drugs to treat the symptoms that you get from the other drugs, and you have to take drugs to treat the symptoms you get from the symptoms. So, it's a day-by-day thing. Any minute I could become totally paralyzed.
So a couple of questions. Did your Berkeley medonc confer with Agarwal, or is this her decision?
Oh, absolutely.
did.
No, absolutely. They've all been in conversation.
Great.
Yep.
And
very bizarrely, when I went to Berkeley to get, she sent me out the base to get the port installed, and when I showed up the next day to get the chemo, they said, "Oh, we thought you were going to San Francisco to get the chemo." I said, "No, you guys schedule it here." Anyway, it's much more pleasant in Berkeley than going to San Francisco. So,
the other thing I was wondering is that what about a reduced dose of docetaxel?
You mean instead of cabazitaxel?
Well, yeah, either cabazitaxel, which supposedly has lesser side effects, is milder to tolerate, or low dose docetaxel.
Yeah, I'm not sure. At this point, they weren't considering docetaxel again. I've had that already. So moving on to the next one.
Okay.
As I said, if they may even give it to me this week. I don't know.
Okay.
Since I did so well. Sometimes the first week's okay, and then it doesn't hit you till the second.
Right. Where are you going on vacation?
Puerto Vallarta.
Puerto Vallarta. Okay.
And I will be pushing my wife in a wheelchair the whole time.
Oh, Jesus. I just wonder, and I don't know whether it's worth talking, but I just wonder if you can line up just in case you need a doc, if there's a doc down there. It might be easier to line up. Go ahead.
They have a doctor at the resort.
Okay. And I'm sure that both your I always forget what's the name of your doc at Berkeley at Sutter.
Dolezal, Dolezal. She's very, very respected. I ran into somebody who works for Sutter up in Nevada. And she said, "Well, is your doctor Dolezal?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, that's good. She's really well respected." She's also leaving.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's going to CPMC in San Francisco.
Oh, well, you know what that may mean. You can tolerate it. You may just be better off to cross the bridge, so at least you're with a doc that either Dolezal or Agarwal.
Yeah, well, my plan is to follow her if it works out that she can still see me over there. She said she could.
Yeah. Anybody have any thoughts, discussion points, questions for Eric? Eric, it's a surprise to me that the equipment is more sophisticated at Sutter than it is at UCSF, at Mission Bay.
No, you got it backwards.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm going to UCSF for the radiation.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm just getting chemo in Berkeley. I get that anywhere.
I got it. Yeah, exactly.
But there's discussion earlier about the pump was that for the neulasta or for the Xtandi that the pump was?
Say that again.
Say
that again, Eric.
They're talking about Xtandi, and I got Xtandi, and it just gave me a shot in the arm. Wasn't any pump or anything.
Right, and you never had any thirst issues afterwards, huh?
Never had what?
You weren't thirsty after you got your Xtandi shot, or were you thirsty after you got your Xtandi shot?
No, I just got osteonecrosis of the jaw.
That's right. Yeah. Which
I'm still fighting.
Right.
The tooth fell out.
Right. Okay. One thing, but it does raise a good point, and I think it's maybe something that you might want to email either Agarwal or Dolezal about. because you're getting on an airplane and because you're flying, do they think it's worth you getting a shot of neulasta before you go?
Do blood counts tomorrow.
Well, just check with them because when you're in close contact with that and your immune system is somewhat compromised, then it might be just for the travel that it might make sense. And I would ask them and see what they say.
Oh yeah, it's part of the discussion. They were talking even about having my wife give me a shot.
Okay.
While I'm in Mexico.
Okay. All right. And when are you leaving for Mexico?
Friday.
Well, I hope you and Gail have a terrific time, and I hope you can relax as best as you can. So you're gone from Friday for a week, you said, yeah?
Till Thursday, 6 nights.
Okay. Well, have fun, and hopefully we'll get who's going to be doing the radiation at UCSF? Albert Chang?
I don't know. I talked to 6 different radiologists, so I don't know which one's doing that.
Okay.
Doing it. Yeah, they had, when I was in there for 24 hours, they had they had several team meetings trying to figure out what to do and what the next step would be.
Okay. Well,
at one point they all came and stood around my hospital bed.
I thought you were going to tell me they sang to you like a barber's choir.
Right.
Quartet, I could just
Danny Boy. They all came and sang Danny Boy for me.
There you go. Look, you got their attention, and that's really good. And it doesn't get much better than the group they have there. So let's just hope you respond to this carboplatin and I guess they're going to have to keep screening you to see the response, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. It's part of the radiation. When they put you on the table, they take shots right there.
Yeah, right.
So.
Right.
They're not going to put the big green mask on me this time, though. I guess I don't know how they'll hold me still.
No,
Ever seen the big green mask?
No. Oh, I didn't even know. Oh, that's because you had to have radiation up by your neck and stuff, right? Yeah, right.
Right, yeah.
Right. No, I mean, I've never seen one, but I know they do that. All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon after you come back and see how you're doing, or give me a call and let me know how you're doing. Okay.
Sure will.
Okay. So moving along, Jim Cameron. Why don't you?
Right here, Rick.
Why don't you share with Ken Anderson our experience this morning?
With Dr. Korn?
Well, Ken's a Dr. Korn patient. Ken was one of the patients. He was referred to Dr. Korn by friends of his, and I also suggested Dr. Korn to him. But talk about.
Well, this morning I had my first call with Dr. Korn and Rick, and we were quite impressed with Dr. Korn. I've been emailing with Dr. Korn for, I guess, 10 days now, and he's amazing. I sent him an email, and within 10 minutes he replies to it, whether it's early in the morning or after dinner at night. And and he's there. He's right on the job. And we had an extended call this morning because my prostate tumor has MRFed, and now I have a much more serious tumor, and it looks like I'm going to have to start chemotherapy. Tomorrow he's going to talk with the local oncologist here in Venice, Florida, and I'm going in Wednesday, and I'm sure then they'll have a treatment plan for me. Right. And I guess one of my questions is, for all you guys out there that have had chemo, what should I expect as far as quality of life when I start it? What will I be able to do and what won't I be able to do?
Well,
this is Eric. I can tell you what my experience is. I was very sick. I couldn't eat. One point, I couldn't eat for a week. I lost 35 pounds, and that was on the 6 sessions of docetaxel. Anytime I approached the hospital, they threw me in a bed and stuck an IV in me and hydrated me. So I guess they laid a lot of the serious side effects to dehydration, but I mean, I was trying to hydrate myself. I don't know. But the recovery afterwards was pretty quick. I lost all my hair. If anyone could see us, I got lots of hair back now, which I'm going to lose again. But even though it was a grueling experience, I not only would do it again, I am doing it again. So I think it's worth it to keep
so
yourself
the whole
going.
time you were doing it, you basically were knocked out. You weren't able to do anything.
No, physically I was okay, except for losing weight. I couldn't eat anything. Anything I put in my mouth was like putting a mouthful of sawdust in your mouth. Just, I did do some god-awful Ensure things and things like that just to make sure I was getting nutrition. There are those liquid drinks that are made of high fructose corn syrup, but there are more natural ones now. And I did whatever I could to keep myself going, but it was a struggle. And physically, I could still do anything. I'd drive, go places, went to theater, did all that.
So basically, that part of your life it was fairly normal. It was just a problem with eating and drinking.
That's correct.
And nausea. But what about?
No, I didn't. I did not have nausea. I did not feel sick to my stomach. I just couldn't put anything in there. It just wouldn't go in.
So what put you in the emergency room?
You mean recently?
No, when you started the.
I was in the emergency room once because I've always had low blood pressure, and they gave me some shots and I passed out, and they insisted that I go to the emergency room. That was the only other time. The most recent time I went in the emergency room was because, 2 weeks ago.
No. I'm just talking about your chemo. I mean, when you had a bad reaction to chemo initially.
I mean, you're talking about when they put the hydration. I mean, I would just go to Herrick, which is the Alta Bates Cancer Center.
Right.
They don't even have an emergency room there. It's just they do 200 infusions every day. So I was just another patient getting an infusion, and only, all it was just, normal saline. They just put me on a normal saline for a couple hours.
Okay, so
but
your bad
wasn't
reaction was the bad reaction you had, and what they're most concerned about is this dehydration issue. Is that right?
Yeah, seemed to be. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Were you able to drive yourself to and from the location?
Absolutely. Somebody drove me once and got lost. I said, "Screw it, I'll drive myself."
Right.
Okay, because right now my wife is recovering from an operation, so I would have to drive myself.
So Jim,
I did every time.
Let's move to Ken Anderson and to Jim Harrington first, and then Ken Anderson. Jim.
Yes, Rick. Rick, I'm here.
What's your experience been with?
Well, I didn't have such a bad experience. I mean, I'm in the middle of it now, and I really actually handle it fairly well. It is true that you hit a nadir, and it comes about 3 days after you've had the infusion, and you start feeling. I think the thing is you have fatigue, you can have shortness of breath, and you just as my doctor said, you feel a little crappy for a while. But honestly, I just try to fight through it. I go to work. And sometimes you just want to lie down. So other than just taking a little rest, The docetaxel, and I haven't lost my hair. It's maybe a little thinner, but nothing really. I must say, it is a reasonably well tolerated chemo, and it's one of I think it was the earliest chemos discovered actually. But I don't seem to be having a lot of problems with it. I mean, I think it's just fatigue, and there's an overall malaise, and you just don't feel like doing a lot of things. But I go to work anyway. I try to work with my students and kind of keep thinking. I don't want to have any chemo brain or anything like that, but it really is not too bad. I mean, also I drive myself. Sometimes my wife will come into the chemo area. She doesn't really like it very well, but it takes a half an hour. They put the stuff in you. It looks like water, and you just walk right out, and it's nothing. So you can certainly drive. It's more I guess the fatigue and so forth.
Well, down here in Florida, I'm only like 3 miles from where you get the infusion, so it's not.
By the way, Jim, are you coming back to New Jersey? Are you giving up on New Jersey, or I thought you? Oh, I see. You're there for the winter. I have my house
for sale in New Jersey right now.
Okay. Okay.
But everything the way it's going, my wife and I have decided that at 75, 2 houses is a little too much going back and forth. So our house in New Jersey was a 3-story house.
Okay. Well, anyway, good luck to you. We'll miss you at the US2 meetings, and I hope it goes well. I hope it goes well for you.
Well, things to go well. I'm going to be up there in the summertime. I'm going to come up for like 3 months and rent something up there. So.
Okay.
If I'm up there, I will stop in the meetings when I'm up there.
Okay. Well, we'll see you then. Okay. Good luck.
And Ken, how was your experience with the docetaxel?
I would agree with Jim that it was pretty well tolerated the first 3 rounds for sure. I mean, I got into a routine, but I did stay pretty active during the whole. I'd say the 6th round was 5th and 6th were the worst for sure, but the other rounds were pretty not easily, but tolerated. I went for real long hikes in the Arizona sun, so I can honestly say it wasn't too bad. I found myself after the 1st and 2nd round taking prune juice of all things because I got constipated on the 2nd day. Found the 1st round, the only part about the 1st round that was difficult is getting myself to go in there and get the shot. Mentally it was just hard to say, okay, I'm going to take chemo. But all in all, I did not, I didn't experience. I did lose my hair for sure, pretty much everywhere, and the fatigue is a big thing. I mean, definitely when your body tells you to take a rest, take a rest. But it's pretty well and not easily tolerated because I was happy when it was over.
Do you go every day of the week, or how many days a week do you go?
No, actually, for the chemo, it was 6 sessions. Right, we're talking about chemo. 6 docetaxel rounds, and they were scheduled once every 3 weeks. I would get.
Is that what you were asking, Jim?
Well, yeah. How often do you go Monday through Friday, like when I had radiation, I had to go every day.
No, you go once every 3 weeks. At least that was the schedule I was on. Once every 3 weeks. Radiation is a different critter altogether.
Okay, so you went. So let's just say the first week you went on Tuesday. So then you didn't go back for another dose for 3 weeks.
Correct. Right. And
there are 3. Go ahead, Rick.
And what happens, Jim, is that it's kind of a cycle. So because they give you extra steroids around the time that you get the chemotherapy, you tend to feel fairly good for 2 or 3 days. You get sort of a boost from the steroids, as you know, because you've taken them before.
I've taken for my rheumatoid arthritis, yeah.
Right. And then there's probably about 5 days when you don't feel so bad. Afterwards, 3 to 5 days as the steroids wear off, and then you kind of hit a low for maybe about 7 days, and then you have about 10 good days, and then you start that cycle again. Those of you who have been on chemo, is that a fair assessment?
I agree.
Yeah,
I would
agree.
agree.
So,
yes, that's correct, Rick. That's what happens. Yeah.
So, we've got other guys who, I know Richard and Dennis. Is there anything that you would add? Dennis, you're a golfer, and Jim's a golfer. Is there anything you would like you want to say to him? Were you able to golf during your chemotherapy?
I was not. I had a little bit of a complication about halfway through. I had the same thing. It was about, I think, every 24, 28 days for 6 months with the docetaxel. And as Rick said, I would have down points maybe 7 to 10 days or so after the infusion. The process itself of the infusion is nothing. I mean, you just go to sit there and the volunteers come by, give you cookies and bananas and whatever. And and then, and you go home, you're still feeling good for another couple of days. And then slowly, you have the bad taste in your mouth, sometimes like a metallic taste. So I ate everything with a plastic spoon. It seemed to help a little bit rather than the metal. I don't know, maybe it was purely psychological, but it seemed to help. And didn't have a great deal of nausea. And I didn't lose any weight. I kept my weight. I worked with a dietitian at the cancer center here in Tucson, and she gave me very good information about the types of things to eat that would be less nauseating and maintain my caloric intake, so forth. But halfway through, I started developing a little fever one day, and so we called and they said get to the ER. And I got in there and I started having chest pains and so forth. But what it turned out to be was an infection plus some pulmonary embolisms in both lungs. After about 3 days in the hospital, they figured out what it was. But it was pretty painful, chest pains with, I got the morphine and stuff like that for the pain. And they got this thing arrested. But the side thing was, number one, I had to start doing the neulasta shots the day after. This is before they come up with the little device that attaches to you. Yeah, I'd actually go back to the cancer center and they'd give me the shot the next day, the neulasta. And also because of the blood clots, I had to go on the blood thinner Lovenox, which was daily injections into the abdominal area. And my wife reminded me it was neutrophil fever, I guess, was what I had actually had. Mm-hmm. And the third complication, well, not complication, but change, and they had to reduce my dose. I think they reduced it by 20% so I could get through the rest of the schedule on it. But I did not play golf. I was very tired after, during that down point. And then maybe 2 weeks after, I'd feel good and I'd be out walking, do my walks and so forth, but not really feeling up to golf. And then, I'd have maybe about 5 good days where I probably could have gone and played if I really wanted to, but I felt I needed more rest, and I'd been doing my walking. And then when I did go back to golf after I finished, it was probably about 3 weeks after the last round or so. And I started out just playing 9 holes, quick cart, and the golf course was very accommodating. I told them what my deal was. I said, I'm not sure you're even going to be able to make it around the 9 holes. Then they said, don't worry about it. Take the cart, go out and play. If you make it, come back in and you can pay me. So they weren't going to charge me if I didn't make it around. So, but I did. So, and but it's a temporary down thing in your life scheme as you go through this for the several months that you have to do it. For me, it was, and then I eventually was able to get off the blood thinners, but that I had to do for a while. And there's a blood test they can actually do to tell how much debris from these blood clots is. When that debris goes away, They think the blood clots are clear and you can get off of the blood thinner. Because when I started it, they said, you're probably going to be on it for the rest, of your duration, because it's a side effect of both the cancer as well as the chemo. So they both kind of contributed to blood clots. But that's my story.
Thanks, Dennis.
Okay.
So, we need to move on because we've got a couple more guys to hit, and I know that there are some of you like Richard and Bill Whittemore that haven't talked about your experience. But if there's anything that you think is really significant that we've missed, please let me know, and I'll put you in direct touch with Jim Cameron. There's just one thing that I'd like to say. I was absolutely flabbergasted, gobsmacked by Paul Korn this morning. He came on the line, and the first thing he said, he said, I want to ask you how you're feeling. How are you dealing with all of this? We'll get to the medical things in a minute, but how are you? And how are you tolerating? How are you dealing? And I just thought that was amazing. He'd never spoken to Jim before, that we'd emailed. He'd never spoken to me before. And that was what he was interested in. He was interested in Jim as a person. And that just says so much to me. I mean, I know Ken's told me great things. My dear friend Jay, who passed away, who was young, in his early 50s, loved Paul Korn. We've had other guys that have gone to Paul Korn. But gee, this guy is some mensch. He's unbelievable. And, and at the end, Jim said to him, well, how do we pay you? He said, don't worry about it. He said, I'm not on the call. That's not what I'm on the call for. I'm not on the call about getting paid. We'll sort it out later. And I'll take care of getting you all set up at MDA. And he was something special. Now, admittedly, Jim's disease is pretty rare. I mean, they say in the literature, I'm looking at the literature, and back around 2006, they only had 100 recorded cases of this type of cancer. So it's going to get some attention. But that doesn't account for such a great human being. And there are other docs like that. I mean, most of you know I have some docs that I just have a huge amount of respect for. And it's not just because they're great, technically great doctors, great medics, but it's because they're terrific clinicians, and they reach out to you. And when you're going through the sort of stress that you guys are going through with advanced diagnoses and treatments, it just makes an enormous, enormous difference. And particularly in Jim's case, where he had his guy at Johns Hopkins basically shrug his shoulders and say, I don't know much about this. And,
basically showed me the door.
Yeah. So keep the faith. There are some great doctors out there, and Paul Korn is right up there amongst them. I just can't say enough good things about him. Oh, and the other thing,
he's definitely top shelf.
He is, and the other thing I just want to say, because we have this discussion from time to time, he was more than willing to collaborate with a local medical oncologist, which for some of you guys I know is really, really important. In other words, he recognized that it's not easy for Jim to come into Houston. It's particularly not easy with Pam's leg in a cast right now. And, the last thing he said to us was, well, give me your doc's direct number and I'll call him today and we'll get rolling. So I just think it's special when you have a guy like that. So
he made it so easy for us.
Yeah. It's very special. All right, Bill Whittemore. I think the last thing I have in my notes was you doing docetaxel. How are you doing, and what's going on?
Oh well, thank you, Rick. Hello, everybody. I did start docetaxel last July, 2016, and I continued having every 3 weeks an infusion up through March of this year. And we got to March, and my PSA went down from 220 to 30.
To what? To what number?
From 220 to 30, 30.
Great. Okay.
And so, yeah, that was great. We got through March, and my doc said, let's take a little holiday here and give you a break. And, up to that point, by the way, my experience was that docetaxel was, quite tolerable. I did have fatigue and had some eating problems and so on, but, basically it was tolerable and fine. And so I took the holiday, and I felt much better and came back in April to resume the chemo. And my doc said to me, unfortunately, we can't resume. And while the holiday can end or go on, we're beyond that now because your blood counts are not coming back. They were down, in March, and they're not coming back. And so let's wait until next month. Let's wait till June and see how your counts do. And June came and went, and the counts stayed down. And by the end of June or early July, I can't remember, my doc said that, it could be that you've got some bone marrow issues here. And so I had a biopsy done of my bone marrow. And the conclusion and diagnosis was that I have myelodysplasia syndrome. In other words, guys, my bone marrow is not making enough mature blood cells to give me high enough counts, not just high enough counts to walk around and feel okay on a day-to-day basis, high enough counts to sustain the hit of chemo every 3 weeks. And so I'm in a kind of a conundrum in that I cannot resume chemo. I still take Lupron, I still take Xgeva, and I take a drug called Aranesp to raise my red blood cell count, so that I won't get low blood pressure, and I can walk around and live normally in that sense. And my white counts and platelets are reasonably low, but normal enough for day-to-day existence. But none of those are returning. And when they looked at the bone marrow from the biopsy, the blasts are such that the MDS diagnosis is where they came to. And so, unless I can solve the MDS problem, I can't go back on chemo. I've had a lot of chemo, and whether going back on it makes it, would last very long at this point, or I don't know. And I know that I'm in stage 4, and I have no symptoms, but the latest scans show that I have tumor in my some of my vertebrates and in my hips a little bit, and those are progressing slowly, not fast, but they're, with each scan we compare and we see that they're moving along, So my PSA has risen now from 30 back up to mid-50s, and we'll see next month. We'll see in a week what my latest reading will be. That so it's hard to. I'm sort of in free fall, or in the context of PSA, free rise again, and not sure where I go from here. I would just add that, Rick, because my medical oncologist is local, but for this problem I consulted recently with a Memorial Sloan Kettering doc, sent him all my scans, and this is a guy I consulted with 20 years ago, and he looked at everything and said, really, I I can't offer you a way forward, which, you know, it's tough to hear, but, you know, not that I'm obviously not stopping, you know, exploring other solutions if they exist, or if they don't exist now, hopefully they'll come into existence. But that's where I am.
So I'd
love any comments.
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. Then we'll throw it open for a few minutes. I want to save some time for David Sibley too. I recognize you there, David. What sort of level are your platelets and your white blood cells and your red blood cells?
Let me see. Let me just look at the last one. So my white blood counts, well, the way they're showing is 2.06, where the range should be 4 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
Red blood counts 3.65. The range should be 4 to 5.70. Platelets 103, when the normal range would be 150 to 350.
And are you getting any blood transfusions?
No, I heard Jim Harrington talk about having them.
You know, this is Jim. I've had about 7 transfusions to raise my hemoglobin, and it works. As they said, you know, when you have a blood transfusion, you'll blossom like a flower. Well, not exactly so, but boy, you feel a whole lot better. The way to solve your hemoglobin problem is absolutely anyway, is to give you blood. Doesn't mean they would do that, but I get 2 units of blood. They put each unit in, it takes 2 hours. And but there's other cancer patients, it's the same thing. My cancer has infiltrated the bone, preventing the formation of hemoglobin. And I haven't had any biopsies, but once my hemoglobin goes down to almost 7.4, which is low. I mean, that's anemic. But it'll pop back up to 10 or so after a blood transfusion. I mean, it happens immediately.
Right.
So I recommend them if they will pay for them. I don't know what they cost, but I'm sure it's expensive. You know?
What's your hemoglobin, Bill?
Yeah, that's a good question.
You know, I have to confess my ignorance. I don't know how to look for that. I'm looking at the chart.
It'll be on your blood counts. It's got to be hemoglobin. Right. You really need to know what that is. And,
I see it. Excuse me. I see. It's listed as HGB, right?
Right.
Yeah, 11.7.
Okay.
Well, you're not anemic. Mine was 7.3.
Right. Right.
I mean, that's really low. I mean,
right.
Well, then I guess transfusions are not. You don't need them. Then I guess that's really good. I think.
Yeah, my doc said to me, like, you know, when and if you're deficient, you know, we'll give you transfusions, but transfusions are not going to get you back into the infusion center for continued chemo.
Oh, that may be. I have no comment on that. I don't know that.
Yeah. So that's the problem.
Who was the doc that? Who was the Memorial Sloan Kettering doc that you spoke to?
Louis Campbell.
Okay, so he wasn't one of the. He wasn't. Is he in the genitourinary service? I've never heard his name before.
He's a gerontologist. You know, gerontological oncologist. Right. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah, gerontologist. So here's the thing that I would suggest to you. I mean, I do think it makes sense for you to bring a GU med-onc onto your team, because if you're working with a local med-onc in Connecticut, that doctor is not specialized in genitourinary diseases. And there's lots of things that are out there right now. Now, have you ever done abiraterone?
Yes.
You have. And
you mean Zytiga?
Zytiga, yeah. You've done Zytiga, yeah. And Xtandi, yes, and you didn't get much life out of either of them. So, you know, there's a new...
I got 1.5 years out of Zytiga. I took Prevenge. You know, who knows whether that's working, but if it is, that's great. I've had all of the other things except radium-223,
right,
and any subsequent chemo. But the radium-223, my doc says, is probably not gonna work
no,
very well when you're in deficiency like I am.
right. It wouldn't be a good idea with myelodysplasia.
Yeah.
There are a couple of thoughts that I have. One, I really think it's probably worth your while getting a consult, either at Yale or at Memorial Sloan Kettering, and asking your local doctor if he'd be willing to work with somebody who was at one of those hospitals and collaborate with them, because there's a lot of new stuff going on. There may be some trial drugs, for example. So that's the first.
Well, yeah, I mean it's a great suggestion. The only thing problem is in talking with the Memorial Sloan Kettering onc that Dr. Campbell, he basically said, given that you have myelodysplasia syndrome, I don't have a way forward.
Let me stop you, Bill. I heard you. Let me stop you. He's not a genitourinary medical oncologist. And we need...
Okay, I thought he was.
I don't think so.
Rick?
Yeah.
Rick, could I add? Richard, I asked Morris, I told him my blood counts were very low. And I asked him, and he told me, he said, yeah, they're lower than normal, but he said, you're a cancer patient. And he said, I'm 73 years old. So he said, there's no problem with it. He just told me to take gave me the doxycycline and the carboplatin, another infusion of it.
Right.
He said, based on your age, based on your condition, you were in good shape. And all my readings are quite below normal.
Right.
So I just say that he seems like, and my readings are not that good. So, he didn't want to give me any transfusions or anything. He just said,
right.
You're okay.
So let me just come back to Bill because we're running a little short on time. Bill,
yeah,
some doctors that we would recommend. The easiest doctor probably to get to, and by and large, most people have a great experience with her, including Jim Harrington, is Dana Rathkopf at Memorial Sloan Kettering. Rathkopf. And she will collaborate with other doctors. She collaborated with Jim Harrington's doctor and spoke to him. She'll work with other doctors, and people like her. There's only one person I know who had a bad experience, but it was a very strange situation. So, it's just sort of an exception. Richard Foody's been seeing her for years, and I mean that she's a really good doctor.
I second that, Rick. She is really good, and she will give you some information. She doesn't just sit there and say, well, there's nothing she can do for you.
Right.
She's excellent.
So that's one possibility. There are other doctors like Richard's Dr. Michael Morris and Howard Scher and others and Susan Slavin who I would not recommend personally. But they're much more difficult to get to. You may have to wait longer for an appointment. And it seems like most people who try to get an appointment with Dana Rathkopf do it relatively quickly. Jim, it didn't take you that long, did it?
No, that's correct. Once she got all information, she had an opening late in the day, and it wasn't more than 10 days or so before. But
Right.
she is really fine, and her fellow is also very good too.
Right.
Very
Now,
important.
the other doctor that you might want to talk to, I think it would be a second choice for me personally after Dana Rathkopf is Dan Petrolak at Yale, and a lot of people like him. But I think I would go to Dana Rathkopf. If it were me, I would be seeing Dana Rathkopf. Let me tell you why I think it's really important that you see these doctors. Because nobody has talked to you yet about sequencing your tumor. And you have if you've got a pelvic tumor, bone tumor, then it shouldn't be that hard to get a biopsy from the bone tumor or to use a liquid biopsy, because there's now some debate how much of a difference it makes. But one way or the other, we should be able to sequence your tumor. If we can sequence your tumor, it may open other alternatives for you. We don't know. There's no guarantee. But it bothers me that your doctor isn't suggesting that, putting it on the table and saying, not saying, and the same thing with the guy at Memorial Sloan Kettering. If he knows anything about prostate cancer, he's going to say, hey, let's sequence your tumor. I mean, and other cancers, but certainly prostate cancer. So, you know, I think that you've got to put it on the table. You can discuss it with your local doc. Tell him you'd like to send either a liquid biopsy to Guardant, Guardant, or to Foundation Medicine, which is our preference, or you'd like to send a solid tumor to Foundation Medicine. Most of the time, it won't cost you much, very little out of pocket, and it can open up some new horizons. I think certainly in your situation where it looks like chemo isn't going to work. I mean, there are other solutions too. Sometimes people who have been off drugs like Zytiga and Xtandi for a while, they'll put them back on it because the androgen receptors regenerate and they become, and you get some time. So the problem for me that I'm having when I hear you is nobody's putting these alternatives on the table for you. Nobody says you have to do them, but nobody's suggesting them. And so I would like you to bring these things up with your doctor and see what the doctor says about some of these alternatives. And I think if you brought them up with Dana Rathkop, she may turn around and say, that's a great idea. Why don't we do that?
Yeah. I think that the Dr. Campbell had mentioned I had 2 calls with him, and he mentioned this, taking a biopsy so that he could determine if there was a mutation in the cancer cells, which would give rise to possible treatments that wouldn't involve chemo. And in the second call I had, after he looked at my scans and the results of the biopsy for the bone marrow, was really don't think we can do this. So he has all of my stuff. I could have him transfer it over to Dana Rathkop, I suppose. It's very current. So that's a good possibility.
Well, what I think, if he's in the gerontology service and not in the genitourinary service, then he shouldn't be offended, and you should be able to switch it over to a GU MedOnc without any problem.
Yeah. Well, that's a great suggestion. I very much appreciate it.
Okay. So let us know how you do. Come back to us and let us know how you do. I'm going to keep moving along because I want to make sure we have time for David. David, you're up.
Sure.
Okay, my question is an Xtandi question about dosing, side effects. I started Xtandi about 3 months ago, and the side effects were joint pain, shoulder pain, and it was quite brutal. So I was leaving on a vacation, so I had stopped the Xtandi for a month, and then I restarted it at 3/4 dose. And my PSA did rise, and so now it rose from 5 to 10, and now I'm on a full dose of Xtandi again, and I will see my doctor next week, and they will do another PSA test. I also have a bone scan scheduled for this week. Okay. So my question is, does anybody else have experience with Xtandi and side effects?
How are you doing with the bone pain? Has the bone pain resumed or not, David?
Not as severe as it once was. but it is quite. I don't use any painkillers, but it is quite annoying. And so, anyone on the call have any experience with Xtandi?
Anyone been on Xtandi? I know we've got abiraterone, guys. Anybody been on Xtandi?
Yeah, this is Jake. Yeah, I've been on Xtandi, but I really didn't have any bone pain. In fact, my pain in my back has decreased somewhat, a little bit, since I've been on it. The biggest side effect I have had is fatigue. Sometimes I just feel knackered. It's just I feel like I got hit by a brick. But can't help you with the pain, the joint pain. Sorry.
No. This is Jim. I was on Xtandi. The only thing is, as I said, I agree, a little bit of fatigue. I just take it before you go to bed. Helps you sleep, but I didn't have hardly any side effects from Xtandi. I wish it had worked, but I failed it after about 4 or 5 months. And
well, that's a good question. I take mine at noon every day.
Yeah, just take it before you go to bed.
Yes,
and see if that won't help you. I mean,
I'll try that. Move it. I'll move it.
Take all four pills. One shot. It helped me. Then I just fall asleep.
Yeah, I agree.
You might try it. Yeah.
That sounds good. Thank you for that. I think.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
So, give that a try. Did any one of you fellows do a reduced dose at all?
No.
No, I never did. I took all 4. No.
Okay.
I wasn't really not much was happening, and it wasn't working all that well. So no, I just took the.
And it didn't work dose. Well. Yeah.
No, I mean my PSA went down to begin with, but then it went back up, and then no, not really. I think that there's this blood test, isn't there, for it? I never had the blood test. I just, you can see which group of people you're in. Will it work or will it not work? But I never bothered with it. I just took it to see what.
Bill Whittemore, did you take Xtandi after your abiraterone? After your Zytiga?
I did. Yes, I did, Rick. But it came on the heels of the Zytiga, and after a couple of months, it didn't work.
Okay. Anyone else? Has anyone else, other than those 3 gents, used Xtandi and enzalutamide? Well, a couple of things occurred to me, David. You're on Xtandi. Have you tried abiraterone?
And that is?
Zytiga, sorry. I beg your pardon.
No, that would be the next.
So let me just say this. I know you were concerned about the prednisone. First of all, the dosage of prednisone that appears to be necessary is about half of what was originally approved in the trial, in the FDA approval, because in the most recent trials that were reported in June, most of the patients were on 5 milligrams a day of prednisone once rather than 5 milligrams of prednisone twice a day. So you can get by on less. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you're having joint pain, then maybe a small dose of steroids might not be a bad thing. So, I have a couple of thoughts here. Possibly when you see your doc, since you seem like you're getting some result out of Xtandi, which probably means you would get a result out of Zytiga, maybe it's worth talking to them about trying Zytiga instead and seeing how you respond to that.
I do think that is the next plan. If I have too many complaints with the Xtandi.
Right, but it hasn't stopped working. I mean, that's the important thing. The Xtandi hasn't stopped working. It's just that the side effects for you are a little different to most people with this joint pain.
During the trials of Xtandi, about half of the people did take a steroid. So it can be done with Xtandi.
Right.
And if that'll help with joint pain, it might be worth trying.
That's a great suggestion, Jake. I mean, or maybe ask your doc, look, I know it wasn't approved with Xtandi, but a lot of people took it with Xtandi in the trial. What if I used a small steroid with it? Maybe that would help my joint pain.
That'd be good. Any blurred vision with anyone?
No, I never had blurred vision.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Jake. Yeah, I think I do have a little bit. I don't know if it's my glasses or the Xtandi, but I have a hard time refocusing.
That's where I'm at right now.
By the way, I agree with Rick. If you can take prednisone, I mean, when you're on docetaxel, you have to take 2 5-milligram prednisone a day. But it absolutely did. It was a miracle for joint pain. I mean, I was going upstairs and my knees were really aching, and I take prednisone because I have to. I'm also taking it without the docetaxel, and it's a miracle drug. I mean, you got to be careful with it. You can erode your joints, but I agree with Rick. If you're having joint pain and you can talk to your doctor about 5 milligram or so prednisone, it can make a big difference.
I will do
Something to think
this
about.
next week. I will bring that up.
Okay. And have you? I remember you did review this joint pain issue with Terry Friedlander, but he didn't have any suggestions for you, right?
No. No.
Okay. Keep him posted, I mean, just tell him you're back on, just every so often, just send him an email and say, Dr. Friedlander, I've resumed, I'm back on Xtandi, and I'm back to a full dose. My PSA rose from 5 to 10 on a 3/4 dose, so I've gone back to full dose, etc. Just give him a little report for 2 reasons. One, because we're not certain he's getting it from your other doc, although you would give it to him when you saw him next time. The other is it just keeps the communication channels open. And he's another one of these Paul Korn docs. He's just a terrific guy. And, I just think it's good to keep that communication going with him.
That's a great idea too. So,
it's just like priming the pump, so that at some point you're going to need to go back to him. Maybe at the end of the year you'll switch your if you switch your Medicare supplement to to the ARP plan, the United Health plan, then you'll be able to see Friedlander all the time. For whatever you're paying, and the cost isn't that great. It's much like the other ones. But in the meantime, and then he won't forget you. You'll walk in, and they appreciate it too. So just a thought. Keep priming the cup. Keep priming the pump there, guys. It's 7:03. I apologize for the technical issues at the beginning. I apologize for not having time to get to PCRI. Keep listening, because one of these days we'll get 10 or 15 minutes left at the end of a session, and we will talk about PCRI before we all forget about it. But it was really good. I'll just say to anybody listening who might be in the middle of the country, and those of you who were on Tuesday heard this, that for me the highlight was we found a really great genitourinary medical oncologist who trained at Memorial Sloan Kettering and other places, and he's based in Omaha. So another good guy to add to our list. So, okay, so that's it for tonight. If I didn't get to you or missed anything, feel free to send me an email, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Rick.